Hi, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Preventing Decline. Today, we are honored to have with us, fresh off of a TED Talk, Dr. Juliëtte Sterkens. Dr. Sterkens, thank you so much for being here.
You are welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Look, your advocacy, I said this off camera, but I'm going to say it again on camera. Your advocacy in the hearing healthcare field, I think is unmatched, right? 44 years of doing this. And I mean, you've seen it all. And I would love to, I don't know, can you do a 2-minute summary of 44 years
summary.
And what you've
been? Dutch speech language pathologist, moves to the United States, becomes an audiologist, buys a practice while 6 months pregnant with another audiologist that we manage. And then in 2008, I discovered that hearing loops are making a comeback, and I'm going, whoa, hearing loops. They were in the schools for the deaf and the hard of hearing when I was doing my student teaching in the Netherlands. And I arm twisted my husband in learning how to become a loop installer. He installed a couple of loops, and they were life-changing to my patients. My patients could hear. They could hear the minister lick his lips. They came back saying, where else are these hearing loops? Where else can I hear better? And that was early 2009, 2012, I sold my practice, and I literally became the national hearing loop advocate. You know, they give you a fancy title when they don't pay you anything.
One of those.
But I get grant funding that covers my travel. And that means that I've been able to be everywhere, state, national conferences, HLAA meetings, basically educating consumers, educating audiologists as to why they need to go beyond the hearing aid, right?
So this is amazing, right? Because actually, can we back up a second? Because, in addition to people within our industry listening to this, a lot of people who have joined the Preventing Decline podcast and that are active listeners are not in our field. And so we just jumped right into loops. So can we back up a little bit? Because
back up.
I think people here are like, well, wait a second. You just told me I can hear better in church. I can hear better in theaters with a loop. So tell me about the evolution of this technology, because you said something that was pretty funny that, there was these loops, and then I realized in 2008 that loops were still around. I think some audiologists are going to be like, hey, it's 2024, loops are still around. So tell us about the technology and how it works.
They are still around. So the short story is that hearing aids work. They've made tremendous improvements in hearing aids. I'll be the first one to say you need a hearing aid that connects to your smartphone or to your television. But the truth is that hearing aids have limited range, and effective range of a hearing aid, depending on the degree of hearing loss, 4, 5, 6, 7 feet. Doesn't mean you can't hear 20 feet away, but understanding is difficult. And so to overcome those limitations, you need to use assistive technology. And that can, like I said, can be a TV transmitter. But in public, the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, not only mandates wheelchair ramps, but also mandates that there are provisions for people who are hard of hearing. And
so range, I mean, that's such an important topic, right? Because that's certainly something that not enough people talk about. Like, yes, I think we could both agree, especially in today's day and age, that the technology, especially the prescriptive technology that's used to treat hearing loss, is pretty damn amazing. Sorry for the language. I can't come up with a better way to say it.
It's fine.
But range, meaning, it's great to have people around you, people that are sitting at a table with you, but that's not always real life. There's sometimes people across the room. There's sometimes in a theater or in a church where you're, 30 pews back and the priest is up there, even though there's speakers, those speakers are still very high up
far away
in the arches.
Mike, It's all about signal to noise ratio. And
Okay.
as a podcaster, you know that if you step away a foot, if I just take my microphone away 2 feet, your listeners are going to go, wait, 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 what did
Point
she do to her
taken. Point
microphone?
taken.
Okay. So, and on top of that, our patients have poor discrimination. So it isn't just an audibility issue. It's that they're grasping for information, their discrimination. If it's on the order of 40, 50, 60%, they're going to struggle. And the assistive listening technology in the past has always required the consumer to go to a service desk, pick up a listening device, put headphones on that don't work with hearing aids, or hope there's a neck loop. Well, a hearing loop allows you to just walk into the theater, allows you to walk into our performing arts center in a retirement community, sit down, and when the performance starts, you push a button and ta-da, you're on the air. No pairing, no linking. It doesn't drain your battery. I mean, there's all these good things about telecoils. Telecoils are the original streaming technology.
Well, and I think that's one of the things. I know there's going to be people in hearing healthcare are still scratching their heads, like, really? And I'll be honest. I mean, because my homework leading up into this, I work with nearly 200 practice locations across the globe, and I've been doing a lot of like digging, like, hey, telecoils, what do you think? How many times you're recommending it? Now, ironically, one of our clients that we work very close with is in Wisconsin, right where you are in your backyard. And of course, I got the, oh, yeah, we talk about it all the time with our patients. But interestingly, from a lot of hearing healthcare providers, I got the, well, it doesn't come up often. We don't talk about it enough because our
There are no
patients have
loops.
come back and said, I hear great now in theaters. I hear great now in church. So I think we have to try to figure out. I know there's no magic line in the sand, but who's really
Yeah.
a good candidate for this type of technology?
And the people who walk out of your office with occluding ear molds.
Okay.
The short answer.
Okay.
Occluding ear molds. If you are wearing a RIC hearing aid with a big vent, you're going to get enough audibility. The hearing aid is going to make the intelligibility better. But if you depend on the microphones on your ears, occluding ear molds, or poor discrimination, or an older person who has auditory processing issues,
Yeah.
any kind of assistive technology is for you. TV
So
streamer.
is it fair to say, okay, so let me just be clear for those that are listening, occluding, if you put something in your ears that help you hear better and it blocks your ears. So it can be
Ear
one of those,
canals.
beige things like in the canal, you stick it in, it plugs the ear. This technology is for you. If you have
Yeah.
something that goes behind the ear, but then you have a big silicone or rubber mold that blocks the ear or occludes the ear, this technology is for you.
Yep.
As compared, or maybe I should say, or if you're still struggling. So if you're going to these environments and your hearing healthcare provider said something like you might still struggle, you do have discrimination processing issues, because what telecoil's doing, and I'm going to let you really dive into the details, is it's directly connecting your ears to the speaker, wherever he or she may be, the actor or the priest.
Exactly. So to get back to occluding ear molds, when you occlude an ear mold, you lose ear canal resonance. That's a huge deal, right? And an effective range on a microphone, 6, 7, 8 feet. And for some who have more severe hearing loss, 2 or 3 or 4 feet. So, we've, as professionals, we've put a lot of faith in technology and hearing aids. Oh, if you have trouble hearing, you ought to get new hearing aids, and then it'll be better. But what you really need to do is avail yourself of other assistive technology. And if I hammer on TV streamers, I think audiologists, I mean, the consumers I meet in the field, did a lecture this week, 67 consumers. And when I asked how many of you have a TV streamer, 2 or 3 hands went up. But half the group wore hearing aids. me we're missing the boat if we're not every night have our patients go, whoa, this TV streamer is the cat's meow, right? Um,
It is, and I think it's one of those things where, dare I say, we've become so black and white, meaning like I'll give everybody a loop, I'll give everybody a TV streamer, or I do none. Whereas it really is, and I think we're kind of in agreement here of there's great technology available. Now,
yep.
look, there are also some hearing aid technologies that aren't great. That's one of my things, that there's 7 different levels, but seeing that we only prescribe the top level for our patients, the vast majority come back and I hear the TV
And do
great, I
well.
hear this great, but you're right, there are still some patients, and I feel like that's on us to dive deep into, okay, great, you're hearing better here, you're hearing better here, but would you like to still hear the TV better? Would you like to hear better in church? Because there is an option. Go ahead.
I think it's not would you like, because they don't know what they're missing. You got to demonstrate. That's why they let you taste the cheese in the store, right? I mean, you're not going to
right.
buy
I
it.
always ask for a slice.
Hey, I'm Dutch. I love cheese. So you got to say, no. Don't come back until your next appointment, until you've been to St. Mary's and you've tried the hearing loop. Let me know what you think. And I have that kind of personality. Keith, I'm sure you recognize it. It's just I won't take no for an answer until you've tried it out.
For people who want to learn more, because I think it's, I'm going to ask you both ways. So let's answer first in terms of the audiologists, the hearing specialists that are out there listening. Where can they get more information? Because I also think there's not a great source of education for this. I don't feel like it's talked enough in schools. No. It's just, oh yeah, there are these loop things that are out there. Wait for somebody to ask you. So where can they go? How can they play a more active role in making hearing more accessible in their own community?
So there's a couple of websites. Hearingloop.org. Great information, including up-to-date information about Auracast. What's the newer technology that's coming down the pike. I have a website, Loop Wisconsin, and then there's also a website called Loop Colorado, and there you can find a library with 1,800 articles that pertain to speech discrimination and assistive listening and telecoils. There's been several articles written how to foster a looped community, or at least be more active in that area. Educate your patients. Don't ask them, ask them, where do you not want to hear? Where do you not want to hear? So if you don't want to hear in the theater, if you don't want to hear in your church, if you never go out, no, you don't need telecoils, right? Demonstrate, encourage your patients to go and try somewhere where there's a hearing loop. And if there's no hearing loop, there are thousands of theaters that have FM or infrared systems with neck loops. They work the same way as a loop, except you have the hassle of having to pick up a device.
Sure. And I would think if you want to hear, that hassle would be worth it. But I also feel like, and I want to talk about the Auracast. I think you say the word cast, and most people understand we must be talking about screencasting, Google Cast. So I want to get into that because let's be real honest. Telecoil technology, and I think this is part of the stigma, dare I say, is, I think older than you and I combined. It's certainly not a new technology. And so I think people seriously, isn't there something better? So let's talk about the future Auracast. There's got to be Wi-Fi type technology, not old-fashioned telephone, electromagnetic type technology.
Audio over Wi-Fi doesn't work for assistive listening. So we'll just debunk that right away. And there's been some companies that have pushed this as being the next assistive listening. It doesn't work because of the severe audio delays from the sound processing via the app to the hearing aids, and then depending on the speed of the internet at the venue. So that's out. We'll just immediately stop that.
Fair.
Auracast, Auracast is based on the new 5.2 Bluetooth technology. It's a lower energy technology, and it appears that it's positioned to be the next assistive listening technology. But there's no international standard. There's no standard. That's scheduled to come out in 2027. Take a look at hearingloop.org/Auracast. The information is right there. So the standard still has to be developed. It's got to be in every telephone, in every hearing aid, in every TV, in every laptop, or you're going to have to plug in little transmitters or the little plug-in devices, USB devices. And we need to develop this whole infrastructure. That infrastructure does not exist. It's like what we're trying to do with electric cars. I mean, driving across the country.
Okay, so we really are in the infancy stage of this.
We are, and so we're talking 5 to 10 years. And so here's my message to everybody who's listening. If you're in the market for hearing aids, if you're a professional who's recommending hearing aids, set your patients up for success. And get hearing aids that have both the Auracast ready Bluetooth, LE audio Bluetooth built in, and they are coming. I think Oticon just introduced, Signia has it, Resound has it, built-in telecoils. So you can now get superfecta hearing aids that have telecoils, that are rechargeable, that have Bluetooth LE audio, and are still cosmetically very appealing. And now you've got it all.
Yeah. And when you were listing all those things, I think people are like, okay, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
No, it's not. Really, it's not.
One of the benefits, even though we're a little behind in this technology, and it might still be 5 to 10 years before it's perfected and really like almost anywhere you go. But one of the benefits of technology is that it does keep shrinking, and you can get this amazing technology in what, look, I still believe in this concept of most new prescriptive technology really falls into the almost invisible category. And that should never be a reason to hear or not to hear, because ultimately, I often joke with my patients, if you think you'll look old using a prescriptive hearing aid, you look a lot older when you're not an active participant in the right, when you're not actively participating, when you're leaning in, or how about this, when you start to isolate yourself from others, because that's what this conversation is ultimately about, right? We geeked out about technology, and there's going to be some, engineers out there. We might get some hate mail, but that's okay. But ultimately, this is about reconnecting you with society, because the detriments of social isolation on your social, your emotional, your physical, and your cognitive health are just, it's devastating.
Hearing well is super important. And I live in a retirement community, and I see the residents who have chosen not to address their hearing, and then I see the ones who do. And even though in your book they may just have a milder hearing loss, they all sit down in our community events, sit down, and I'm in the back and I'm seeing all of them do this or swipe on their smartphone. Amazing. So it's a matter of, if you can just sit and hear and not have to spend as much energy listening, it's not that they can't do it with just their hearing aid. It's so much easier in the loop.
That's what really, I think, even our field has to focus more on. I don't think we focus enough on the ease of communication, because ultimately what ease of communication means is reducing the burden.
Cognitive load.
It's reducing the cognitive load. It's reducing the burden. Like, we have to start to realize as a society, hearing loss is not just a nuisance. It's not just, I'm older, I can't hear that well. It is taxing your brain into decline. And
Yep.
there's no nice way to say it. That's just the truth of the matter.
And if there's one thing that I hope to accomplish with my TED Talk, is that people go, yeah, you're right. We have wheelchair ramps. We have, automatic door openers. We have braille signs everywhere. But we really don't do anything for people who are hard of hearing. And I want the normal hearing public to realize that hearing aids are great, but they don't give you normal hearing. I wish they did, but they don't. All you
They
have
do
to
a
do
great
is,
job. And I will say one of my favorite things that patients say to me is, I feel like I hear naturally again. But there's still going to be, because like you said, there are limitations, range. There are, and that's a technical limitation, range. But then there's the internal range, right? You and I know that
yep,
because it takes most people 10, 20 years to address their hearing loss, their chronic neurologic condition, that, and I'm not going to say it's too late, but the damage is done. And
yep.
sometimes the damage is so extreme that even with the world's greatest piece of technology, the limitation is up here. And the ability to discriminate is up here. And
Yep.
no outer technology can fix that. So we got to clean up the signal.
And by cleaning up the signal so easily, again, my mother can go to, unfortunately, she's in the age group where she's going to a lot of funerals, but she can go to these events. And if somebody reminds her to turn the telecoil on because she's 97,
Fair.
she'll just go, oh, I heard every word today. And
Amazing.
otherwise, she'll sit there like a bump on a log, and she wears her hearing aids pretty faithfully.
Let me ask you a little bit. Now, thank you for this. This has been amazing. Just in the last couple of minutes here when we wrap up, you had an amazing TED Talk. I would love to know a little bit of the, right? I think the biggest question most people ask about TED Talks is how do you even get on that stage? And I've started to learn a lot about it. But what was that? What was that journey like? I've heard some pretty crazy stories about what it takes to get on a TED stage. You did it. That's amazing, and your message is fantastic.
Thank you. It's so Oshkosh has a TEDx Oshkosh event. Um, and because over the last 12, 13, 14, almost 15 years, I've been talking about hearing loops and about hearing aids. And so I've talked to every Rotary and Lions and Kiwanis Club, and the people who help organize the TEDx invited me to submit a presentation.
Okay.
That was right before the pandemic. And then the whole thing went flat. There were no TEDx events, and I kind of dropped the ball. And then I thought, oh, I'll just submit my presentation and I'll get accepted. They had over 300 applications for Oshkosh alone. And so I had to go through an interview process, submit my talk. That in itself was like writing a book, and it was, whatever it was,
Sure.
2,000 words or 2,200 words. And I thought when they accepted me that the easy part was over, no, that the hard part was over. Ha! Oh my God, Keith, you got to memorize the darn thing
Oh
by
yeah.
heart. And I am just not very good at that. I'm good with, I mean, I'm great in the public. I'm great,
Sure.
in conversation, but you're standing alone on the stage. And it was very overwhelming. I can sense all my nervousness when I watch the video, of course.
Well, I
Um,
think you're the only one because I certainly didn't sense it.
but I don't think I've ever worked harder in my life getting ready for a presentation and making sure that everything that I said, I had proof and references. And I think that was also the reason why it got picked up by TEDx. When they posted it on YouTube, they posted it on Saturday as the only video. That was it. And generally, they drop 10, 15, 20 different TED Talks on a weekday, but not on the Saturday of World Hearing Day weekend. And so I lucked out. On Saturday and on Sunday, there were really only 2 TED Talks, and that helped to jumpstart it. We're over 60,000 views.
Amazing.
And I think that also proves that consumers are hungry for good information, not the rah, 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 come in for your free hearing
Oh,
test,
please,
and
please,
we'll tell
please.
you what you.
Come in
Okay.
for a free turkey. And yeah, no, no,
We're looking for 20 candidates for a study.
I think, I mean, this is, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, right?
Makes me
I mean, you've
cringe.
done amazing work, your advocacy, and I think you just hit the nail on the head. And I think this is a great way to end this talk because ultimately it boils down to education. That is why I just started my 6th book and why several of my books have become an Amazon.com bestseller, whether it's my first one, Stop Living in Isolation, or Preventing Decline, or the new book about tinnitus. And I always tell people, look, you're going to read the book. You'll probably find typos. You'll probably find things that aren't grammatically correct, because for me, I'm just trying to get the information out there.
Yeah.
And the reason I think they've done well, it's not a tribute to me at all. It's a tribute to the fact that with 1.5 billion people living with hearing loss, now in the United States, less than 10% of people with hearing loss are actually adopting treatment. That tells me there's 90% of people who want more information. They need to learn more before they take the next step.
And I think that's where Auracast can be of benefit, because there's going to be people using wireless earbuds, and they'll be able to pick up those broadcasts directly in their wireless earbuds as opposed to hearing aids. But my message is also, if you have hearing loss and theater is important to you, go pick up a listening device. What do you care what you look like? Do you want to hear or do you want to look good?
Exactly. I think the better you hear, the better you look. How about that? Can we agree on that?
I'm moving closer and closer to those hearing aids myself. So yes.
Dr. Sterkens, thank you so much for your time today. This has truly been an honor, and I can't wait to get this out there. Can't recommend looking at that TED Talk enough, and going to your Loop, Wisconsin, which is certainly more for locals, but hearingloop.org to find a treasure trove of information, whether you're on the healthcare side of things, how can you help more people in your community, or you're that person who's still struggling and wants to hear better. Thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.